The Galactic Institute of Advanced Sciences floated in the void between star systems, a monument to intellectual cooperation among the 17 species of the Interstellar Council. Its crystalline spires caught the light of distant suns, refracting it into patterns that would have driven human eyes mad with their impossible geometries. But Bella Chen had learned to look past such things. After all, she was the only human in a classroom of 200 alien students, and strange visuals were the least of her concerns. She sat in the back row of Professor Zilthar's quantum engineering lecture, her tablet dark and her hands folded calmly in her lap. Around her, students frantically scribbled notes, or their species equivalent. The Arixian to her left was secreting pheromone markers onto a chemical pad. The Vorn ahead of her was etching symbols into a silicon slate with specialized manipulators. Everyone was desperate to capture every word from Professor Zilthar, a renowned physicist whose species, the Kelthron, possessed 3 independent brains and could process information at speeds that made quantum computers look sluggish. Everyone except Bella. Miss Chen, Professor Zilthar's mechanical translation device crackled, his crystalline eyes fixing on her with an expression that might have been curiosity or contempt. It was hard to tell with Kelthron. I notice you are not recording this lecture. Is my instruction inadequate for human comprehension? A ripple of amusement passed through the classroom. Several students turned to observe, their various sensory organs trained on the small human female who had somehow tested into the Institute's most prestigious program. Bella smiled politely. No, Professor, your instruction is excellent. Then why do you not take notes? Today's material on quantum entanglement manipulation will comprise 40% of your final project, due in 3 cycles. I'm aware, Professor. I've already submitted my final project. The classroom fell silent. Even the hive mind collective in the corner, who usually maintained a constant background hum, went quiet. Professor Zilthar's 3 brains must have been working overtime because he stood frozen for a full 5 seconds, an eternity for a Kelthron. You submitted, but I am currently teaching the material required for the assignment. Yes, sir. Your lesson today is excellent. I'm listening to see if I missed anything in my analysis. The professor's translator was silent for a moment, as if struggling with the concept. You wrote a report on material that had not yet been taught. Well, Bella said, her tone casual, the assignment parameters were clear. You wanted a comprehensive analysis of practical applications for quantum entanglement in faster-than-light communication systems. The Institute's library has 73,000 research papers on quantum mechanics. I read them, synthesized the information, identified the gaps in current methodology, and proposed 3 novel approaches. I submitted it 2 cycles ago. An audible gasp came from somewhere in the middle rows. A Drexian student's translator squawked, 73,000 papers. That would take 17 years to read. Bella shrugged. It took me 6 days. I didn't sleep much. Professor Zilthar's crystalline structure seemed to dim slightly, a sign of deep confusion in his species. Miss Chen, I must point out that I have not yet covered the fundamental principles necessary to understand even basic quantum entanglement. That is what today's lecture is for. I understand, Professor, but humans have a saying, why wait for tomorrow what you can learn today? I didn't see any rules saying I couldn't study ahead. Later that day, in the Institute's cafeteria, a massive hall where different atmospheric zones allowed various species to eat in comfort, Bella sat with her only friend at the Institute, Leo Santos, the second human to ever attend. Leo was everything Bella wasn't, outgoing, athletic, and possessed of a healthy respect for doing things the proper way. He was also currently staring at her with his mouth open, his nutrient paste forgotten. You did what? He finally managed. Bella calmly ate her synthesized earth food. The Institute did its best, but it still tasted like cardboard. I finished the final project. What's the big deal? Bella, that's insane even for you. Do you know what you've done? You've basically told the most respected professor at the institute that his teaching is unnecessary. That's not what I said at all. I said his teaching was excellent. After you'd already finished the assignment, Leo ran his hands through his hair, a gesture that drew curious looks from nearby aliens who found human grooming habits fascinating. You're going to get expelled. Or worse, you're going to make them hate all humans. Why would they hate humans for being efficient? Leo leaned forward, lowering his voice. Because it's not about efficiency, Bella, it's about humility. Every species here is supposed to be learning together, respecting the process. You skip the process entirely. Bella considered this, her dark eyes thoughtful. It was true that she often missed social cues that seemed obvious to others. Earth schools had called her gifted but difficult. The Institute had called her statistically impossible when she'd scored in the 99.9 percentile on their entrance examination, a test designed to challenge the galaxy's finest minds. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, she said quietly. I was just excited. This is quantum engineering, Leo. Do you know how long humans have dreamed about this stuff? And here we are, learning from species who have been doing it for millennia. Why would I waste that opportunity by going slow? Before Leo could respond, a shadow fell over their table. They looked up to see Professor Zilthar, his crystalline form refracting the cafeteria's lights into dazzling patterns. Miss Chen, Mr. Santos. The professor's translator was formal clipped. Miss Chen, I have reviewed your submitted project. Bella stood, instinctively respectful despite her casual attitude in class. And it is. The professor paused, and Bella could have sworn she saw something like disbelief in his alien features. It is extraordinary. Your third proposed methodology for maintaining quantum coherence across interstellar distances. It solves a problem my own people have struggled with for 3 generations. Leo's eyes widened. Bella simply nodded. The trick is using paired dark matter anchors instead of traditional gravitational wells. It's all in the math on page 47. Yes, I saw that. Professor Zilthar seemed to struggle with his next words. Miss Chen, you must understand. In my 200 years of teaching, no student has ever anticipated curriculum in this manner. It is disconcerting. I'm sorry if I caused any disruption, Professor. Disruption. The Kelthron's translator actually produced something that sounded like laughter, a harsh, crackling sound. Miss Chen, the Council of Professors convened an emergency session this afternoon. Half wanted to expel you for academic irregularity. The other half wanted to promote you directly to doctoral research. Bella blinked. Oh. Indeed, oh. The professor's 3 brains seemed to synchronize for a moment, his posture becoming almost respectful. I have a question for you, Miss Chen, a personal one. Yes, Professor. Why are humans like this? It was Bella's turn to be confused. Like what? Impatient, relentlessly forward-moving. Every other species in the galaxy understands that knowledge is a journey to be savored and approached with proper reverence. But you humans, both of you, he gestured at Leo, you consume information like you're afraid it will disappear. You see a mountain of knowledge and immediately begin climbing without proper equipment or training. Why? Bella and Leo exchanged glances. Finally, Leo spoke up, his voice carrying a weight that Bella had rarely heard from her usually jovial friend. Because we're young, Professor, Leo said. Our species, I mean. Compared to the Kelthron or the Irixians or any of the council races, we're bobbies. We've only been in space for a few hundred years. We've only known we weren't alone for 50. And, Professor Zilthar prompted. Bella found her voice, understanding suddenly clicking into place. And we're terrified we'll get left behind. Every moment we're not learning is a moment we're falling further from the rest of you. We can't afford to go slow, Professor. We have thousands of years of progress to catch up on. The professor was silent for a long moment. Around them, the cafeteria had gone quiet, dozens of species listening to this strange conversation. "You know," Professor Zilthar finally said, "there is a human story I encountered during my research into your species, about a race between a tortoise and a hare." Bella nodded. "The tortoise wins because the hare is overconfident and takes a nap." "Precisely. Slow and steady wins the race, as your people say, and yet here you are being the hare, refusing to slow down." The professor's translator carried what might have been amusement. "Do you not worry you will burn out, exhaust yourselves before the finish line?" Bella's smile was sharp, almost fierce. "With respect, Professor, you're forgetting the most important part of that story." "Which is?" "It's just a story. In reality, the hare wins every time, as long as she doesn't stop running." Professor Zilthar's crystalline structure seemed to pulse with light, a sign of deep thought in his species. Finally, he spoke, and his translator carried something that sounded almost like pride. "The council has decided, Miss Chen. You will not be expelled. Instead, you will be placed in the advanced research track, normally reserved for postdoctoral candidates. You will also be required to work with a partner, someone to ensure you occasionally remember to sleep and eat." "I volunteer," Leo said immediately, grinning at Bella's surprised expression. "Accepted," the professor said. "And Miss Chen, one more thing." "Yes, Professor." "In my next lecture, I will be covering the principles of dark matter manipulation, material you will need for your next assignment, due in 6 cycles." Bella's eyes lit up. "I'll start reading tonight." "I assumed as much." The professor turned to leave, then paused. 73,000 research papers in 6 days. Your species is either brilliant or insane." "Can't we be both?" Bella called after him. The professor's laughter, that harsh, crackling sound, echoed through the cafeteria as he departed. Around them, students began to whisper, their various translators creating a cacophony of speculation about the strange humans and their relentless approach to learning. Leo shook his head, smiling despite himself. "You know you're going to have to actually work with me now, right? That means sleeping, regular meals, maybe even some downtime." Bella grimaced. "That sounds inefficient." "That sounds human," Leo corrected. "Being brilliant is great, Bella, but burning yourself out won't help anyone. The professor was right. We're in a marathon, not a sprint." "Then we'd better maintain a good pace," Bella countered, "because I don't plan on letting the galaxy leave humanity behind. Not now, not ever." As they left the cafeteria, heading toward the library where Bella would undoubtedly begin researching dark matter manipulation years ahead of schedule, Leo couldn't help but feel a strange pride. The other species of the galaxy had millennia of advancement, technologies that seemed like magic, and wisdom earned across countless generations. But they'd never encountered anything quite like human determination, that peculiar mixture of brilliance, stubbornness, and refusal to accept limitations. Bella didn't take notes in class because she'd already written the report, and somehow, impossibly, that felt perfectly, quintessentially human. The galaxy would just have to keep up. And